Now, Krashen's model was highly influential, and one needs to keep in mind that it is still very influential and it has triggered several studies. However, it is quite debated. Now, the basic premise of Krashen's model was that there is a difference between language acquisition and language learning, because acquisition and learning are two different processes. Acquisition, Krashen said, was subconscious, and it was identical to the process of learning of the first language. Like when the children learn the first language in their environment, they do not learn a language according to Krashen, but they acquire language because they are not focusing on the form. Learning, Krashen said, was a conscious process, and with this he referred to the formal learning of the classrooms, and this he argued involved learning or knowing about the language. So when you're learning the grammar of a language, Krashen would say that this is learning and not acquisition. Krashen also argued that acquisition is the result of natural interaction with language in meaningful communication. That means learners, when they go, for instance, into an environment where the second language is being used and they pick up the language from there, this will be acquisition according to him. For instance, you might have noticed that when children move on to another place or another country, they quickly pick up the language of their peers or the second language. He also argued that acquisition involves a number of developmental processes, and these processes are similar to the learning of the first language. Krashen argued that learning, on the other hand, was different from acquisition. This was emerging from classroom experience and a focus on the form of the language itself. So when you are focusing in your classrooms on rules or learning of a language, then it is learning that is taking place, and this is not acquisition. So this hypothesis is focusing on the difference between learning and acquisition. Now, what is the problem that is debated, and why is this difference challenged? It is argued that we cannot possibly say that meaningful communication, that is, communication or interaction that makes sense to both the people who are in the communication, is only a subconscious process, and it occurs only in environments that are natural. So are we saying that in the classrooms there is no meaningful communication? Or are we saying there is no subconscious process at work when the children are learning a language in the classroom? Second is, when we say that their focus on form involves conscious process only, then even it is questionable. How do we know that then when we are focusing on the form, and do we focus on the form only in classrooms? And don't we, when we listen to second language native speakers, and we are in a natural environment, do we not focus on the form then? And is the learning then subconscious or conscious? So those are the issues that are raised for this distinction between acquisition and learning. In any case, there is also this problem that Krashen never actually explained what he meant by subconscious processes. And Krashen's claim that learning cannot turn into acquisition, and always learning and acquisition will be present in the mind like two different compartments, is also highly arguable. In any case, his hypothesis regarding the difference between acquisition and learning has been quite popular. It is still popular with some researchers, and it has triggered several research projects. And although we might use this distinction or between the two for our own use, one has to be ready to answer those questions that are raised by critics regarding the processes difference between language learning and language acquisition.